to Europe's Premier Cup competition, the Champions League. Aston Villa 2, Bologna 0. It's another 3 points, it's another clean sheet, Jim, and another famous night at Villa Park.
Absolutely, and as you said in the intro, Aston Villa are top of the Champions League, which is a thing now.
It is.
It's only just dawning on me that someone's going to win this little league bit, and it's going to mean nothing.
Yeah.
Until Gianni Infantino turns up and invites them along. Yeah, we'll cover that later.
All right, Andy. Oh, yeah, it's not his jurisdiction. It's not FIFA, it's UEFA.
It's true.
It's not salt-based jurisdiction to be on the pitch during the World Cup, is it?
That man has a skeleton key for every football ground in the world.
But maybe they'll do a sort of apertura clausura type thing like they do in South America, where you get sort of one trophy and then it doesn't really mean anything. There's another trophy later.
What a great idea.
As if we're not confused enough.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, what an incredible period for Villa. They look so at home in the Champions League. I think you would assume a lot of that is down to Unai Emery and the experience he has and the kind of brilliant man management he has in terms of, you know, having players ready for these challenges. But they look so calm, so confident. Morgan Rogers was exceptional again. John Duran there's every type of finish in that locker, as well as probably some frogs. Because he was really unhappy to come off, wasn't he?
Oh, he was furious. He was absolutely furious. He was given man of the match, of course. But yes, it's amazing stuff that Villa are producing. And obviously, John McGinn, your Bay, Vish, scores the first goal. Didn't mean to. And I thought to myself, was it McGinn who scored that great volley for Villa
in the
Sheffield
Championship?
United in the Championship?
The one that goes dead straight.
Yeah. And my mind cast back to that, and I thought, bloody hell, he's had quite the career trajectory, hasn't he? Because now look at him. He's got a Champions League goal. Obviously, didn't mean to do it. I mean, you mentioned Morgan Rogers there. Not that long ago, he's playing for Middlesbrough, and in the Championship. And again, here he is in the Champions League, looking very much the part. And it all goes down to Unai Emery, really. I know that they've backed him at the club and made some good signings, and the players take great credit. But it'll be 2 years tomorrow since he was unveiled as Villa's new manager, just a few days after Steven Gerrard was sacked. It's an incredible turnaround. The fact that they got into the Champions League was unbelievable achievement.
Yeah.
The fact now that they are looking very much at home in it as well. But it's astonishing.
It is, but the work that Emery has done since has really underlined, I don't know what you think about this, Jim, that he was totally the right manager for Arsenal at totally the wrong time, really.
Possibly.
Because he's fantastic. You know, there's this idea...
I think Arsenal fans may push back on that a little bit.
Well, sure, but...
It's not always one size fits all.
Yeah, but I mean, Andy made a point about the timing of it, which I think is a big factor in it.
I think it is the major factor in it as well. And I think it's that he's arrived at Villa at absolutely the right time as well, post-Villarreal, because there was that sense with Emery that he was a very, very accomplished coach, but a very accomplished coach who was just a little bit too micromanaging and inflexible, and maybe he couldn't do it with the biggest clubs. Now, I know there will be people out there who will say, well, okay, Villa aren't Manchester United or whatever, but I think, no, in terms of global scale, I'm talking about. But I think the interesting thing is Villa have gone absolutely through the roof in the last 2 years whilst playing really thrilling football. Yeah. And this is indicative of that. And a lot of medium to long-term Emery watchers wouldn't have thought that one of his sides was necessarily capable of this, and certainly not a side that he picks up in a bad place like Aston Villa were when he took over.
The tune he's getting out of some players, though, is quite something. Obviously, you mentioned John Duran, who was great, got his goal, and then wanted to beat everybody up when he was subbed off. But it shows you, again, he was the sake of man of the match, you know, you understand that. And Emery was just asked about that. He went, yeah, don't worry, it's fine. I mean, I'm in control of the situation. It'll be great. And they sub him off and bring Ollie Watkins on, who's another player who obviously the story wasn't about Watkins last night, but another player who's excelled under Emery, of course. But Ross Barkley came on at half-time. Lovely to see such a renaissance in his career, getting a bit of Champions League action, Vish.
Yeah, I was quite surprised that Villa brought him back, not because he hadn't performed well in the role, like in that central role for Luton Town last year, but purely because you don't really see it. You kind of think that everyone who was there at the club when Barkley left, and I mean people, you know, in the upper echelons of the club, would have seen him go and then would almost be too proud to bring him back.
I know what you mean.
Because we've moved on from him, we've moved up as well. But I mean, it's great for him because I feel like he maybe took a bit of a risk when he went to France. And it felt like he did take a risk when he went to Luton. He almost, he used it as a shop window without necessarily being negligent of Luton Town's needs because he was one of their better players last season. But yeah, it was just nice. Things are allowed to be nice, aren't they? In football, even in the Champions League. And it's quite cool that he's a part of this next step, having been, I suppose, discarded a few years ago.
Yeah, and discarded is the word, really, because, I mean, he took the Nice and the Luton moves because he didn't have any other option. Yeah. Really. And then all of a sudden, here he is on this stage.
But that kind of slight change of position where he plays a bit further back has worked wonders for him. And essentially, they're a great illustration of where both have gone, really, because this feels like a different Ross Barkley at a different Aston Villa. Yeah. It almost feels irrelevant that he was there before.
Exactly, yeah, it does, totally. But I think what you were saying about the tune he's getting out of certain players, I mean, you look at, say, we mentioned Morgan Rogers, he's got a lot of love this season and quite rightly so as well. But I don't know, do you ever get the impression with a player that he was just built for this stage, that he was built for this moment? Yeah. Because the whole discussion around Morgan Rogers, and we're talking, a year ago when he was still at Middlesbrough, there was always this conversation of, well, does he play out wide? Can you have a number 10 in a championship team? And it was all fretting about where to fit him. Yeah. That's never a discussion at Aston Villa because he's such an incredible natural. And, even the celebration when he scores, it's a reminder of the company he keeps. It's a reminder of Cole Palmer.
Well, he says it was his celebration.
Yeah, he gave it to Cole Palmer. And you forget that Rodgers came from that sort of background. And really, I think it's one of the hardest things, isn't it? Maybe if you can't quite get in the first team at one of these mega clubs, can you find the right place to rebuild yourself? And I don't know, like when Middlesbrough are there in the mid-table last season, struggling with injuries and all the rest of it, you think, is he a talent that's going to get lost? Is he a talent that's going to fall between the cracks because he's just in this place that's not massively suitable for him? Exactly.
Yeah, not everybody. I mean, just on pure numbers. But it's interesting when you say he looks like a player who was kind of built for this stage. Often we look at the numbers, understandably so. I mean, there's only so many hours in the day and so many live games that you can watch. And if someone is absolutely tearing up the championship and you see the goals and it's just whatever, you think, okay, well, that guy's going to be a player. But it's not always just about the numbers. Sometimes it's about what you see, the talents that player has and so on. And obviously Rodgers is one of them. And he will start to add more goals to his game. I mean, he might have scored last night against Bologna, but didn't. But he will start that. What about another man who, of course, disrespected at Arsenal and found a home at Aston Villa, Emi Martinez, Jordan? Again, a man built for the big stage.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and
built his own stage, which happened to be bigger than the big main stage. I think.
Then did some really obscene things on it.
Yeah, you know what he does on stage.
Why is there a pole? Oh no!
He pulled that from home as well.
Oh dear. I mean, look, I once again let me go back to Fulham being beaten by Villa on the weekend at Craven Cottage when Andreas Pereira gets that penalty. I think there was
1-0 up at the time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm thinking, just hit this as hard as you possibly can in the corner. Oh, you've tried to psych out Emi Martinez.
Yeah, also don't look at him. Do not look at him.
He'll be laughing at you in your dreams for a week.
Yeah, like he makes it look so easy and gets up and looks at the away fans and goes, yeah, this is just what I do.
I mean, that's the thing. The way Martinez saved that penalty and then hammered the club badge on his chest like about 10 times, it's like, no disrespect, you've just saved a penalty against Fulham. You're a bloke who's won the World Cup.
Andy.
It's a bit over the top, isn't it?
No, it isn't over the. What are you talking about?
That's a respected European football journalist there, though. So maybe he's on something.
Well, now he's a disrespected European football journalist.
It wasn't necessarily just yesterday, but I think yesterday because Bologna started very well,
they did,
and Martinez kept them in it with that early save.
Indeed.
But I think it was yesterday where I finally admitted to myself that Emi Martinez is comfortably their best player.
Ooh, big shout.
He's the most high-profile player. He's their best player. He is the player who, let's say if they didn't get into the Champions League this season, or if they don't sustain this level, he is the player that other teams will be looking at and thinking, He belongs at this level, actually. I'll take him on.
But I think some of his sort of shithousery and so on makes you think differently.
Yeah, and I think we've spoken about that, haven't we?
Because, I mean, when he won the, the goalkeeper of the year at the FIFA Awards, I kind of scoffed at it a bit, and then I rethought myself, wrote him a lovely poem, and presumably, Emi, all's forgiven. But you're right, though. I think that one can sort of think, okay, he wasn't number one at Arsenal. He went to Villa to try and sort of not rebuild his career, but to sort of kickstart it, I suppose. I know he won the FA. Yeah, I know he won the FA Cup at Arsenal and he played the final and all. But you're right, and at the time Villa were not where they are now. But as they've grown, he's grown as well. World Cup winner, as you rightly say, one of the players of that tournament. And you think to yourself, when the Villa fans are singing, like the world's number one, Emi Martinez, you kind of go, I mean, he's maybe not world's number one, but he's
not a long way off.
It's very rare that fans sing those songs, whether it's we're by far the greatest team, and be like, oh, you got a point actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think the thing with his antics and that sort of stuff, and perhaps why people focus on it, is because it's actually hard to pick out a flaw in his game otherwise, isn't it?
But
his distribution's very good, his concentration is excellent, he's a good penalty saver.
But the thing is, with focusing on his antics, that's why he does the antics.
Exactly.
So he makes everybody think, oh, he's not as good. Oh, he saved it again.
Everything in play.
He's mugging us all off.
He's like Freddy Krueger.
Do you think Pereira's waking up midweek? Well, not waking up, because Martinez is in his dreams humping inanimate objects around his house.
I hate to think. It was good to see Tyrone Mings back in the squad.
Really good.
Something we can all get behind there. So lovely to see that. Now, the Opta supercomputer says it's that 15 points is required to secure a top 8 finish and automatic qualification for the knockouts. Villa are well on their way. But as you said at the start, Jim, I feel like you should get some sort of little tiny trophy for being top of that group.
Yeah.
Because it's no mean feat.
Well, it's not a group, is it? It's the league and the Champions League.
Finally, we've got the Champions League.
Yeah.
Not all those silly little leagues. What do you think, just very quickly on the format? I have to say, I do look at the league table and you kind of go, oh, there, and you kind of look at it and I go, is this more exciting? Andy, has it got the potential?
It depends, though. If we're talking about looking at it on a piece of paper being more exciting than the actual football, I think that maybe suggests a bit of an issue.
Well, okay, so let me clarify. So I understand that where this format comes from, it was ultimately fear of the Super League, it was pandering to the big clubs. So I get that where this has come from is not particularly good for football. However, now it's here, and it's always the case, when the first ball is kicked, you kind of forget a lot about that. But I think the idea that you play each team once, you don't have to go, oh, we've got, little teams are not going, oh, we've just been beaten 4-0 at home by Man City, we've now got to go to their place and we know we're going to lose. You don't have that.
Part of me does miss the little gang that you're in, where none of you trust each other, and you're all sort of pitted against each other. Yeah. But at the same time, again, that's just a hangover of like the tradition of it, I suppose. I don't know yet whether I prefer it or not. I guess
early days.
But that's
hard
the right
to tell
attitude.
until we've had the whole group stage, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to be open-minded to it. And I think even at the end of this season, it's only one season doesn't sort of dictate a trend or anything like that. You'd need a couple of seasons.
You've always said that about Harry Kane, haven't you?
That's it. My guess is that in a couple of seasons, this will be adjusted in some sort of way. So I think the biggest problem is at the moment twofold. And you didn't get either of them in this game, which was a great game because, as Vish said, Bologna were very good opposition, even though they underline what they are, a good team that cannot put it in the back of the net, really, at the moment. The problem you've got is twofold at the moment. And I think the biggest problem is that there's a massive gap between the biggest teams and the weakest teams. And I think we'll come to the relative lack of tension around Arsenal and Shakhtar.
Well, let's do it now, Andy.
In a minute, yeah. And I think the other problem is because it feels a little bit consequence-free because there are so many games. There have been a few games where they've turned into thrashings because one team has thrown in the towel, which is not great for football.
Arsenal didn't throw in the towel against Shakhtar.
Shakhtar.
It would have been odd had they have done.
You mean Dortmund?
Yeah. Arsenal 1, Shakhtar 0. Arsenal fans had a banner before kickoff with an image of Mikel Arteta. It was backwards, though, so it said Somav instead of Vamos.
Is that a metaphor, Jim?
It very much felt like a representation of the game, that sort of thing. It's funny because that is a banner that's regularly displayed, so I don't know why they've made a new wrong one.
Is it a wonder kid in Bulgaria?
No,
or
they just held it. They just held it up the wrong way round.
Oh, I see.
That's what it was. It was just to my right.
Yes.
And they just held
you
it
must
up the
have
wrong
been
way around.
particularly unhappy with that.
Well, people around me were suggesting that Somav was maybe some Ukrainian delicacy.
Ah, yes.
I see. Well, whatever it was, it didn't derail Arsenal getting 3 points.
No.
I mean, not the most convincing, but I suppose when you're in the Champions League, you just got to get it done.
I mean, as the dust has settled on the morning, I realise I firstly need to dust. Clean my bedroom.
Yep.
And also that the 3 points is the most important thing. It wasn't a convincing performance. It was very flat. The first half was a lot better than the second half. They were a little bit wasteful in terms of the chances they managed to create and not really do a lot with. The second half, he took Ben White off because he was on a booking. And I think, the way things have been going, Arsenal-wise recently, it's probably a good idea.
Yes.
But he moved Thomas Partey to right back. Partey's actually had a really good start to the season and has been growing in terms of his form as well. But Arsenal couldn't really get hold of the midfield at any point. And that is a concern for me because you've still got Declan Rice, Jorginho and Havertz and Trossard sort of dovetailing in that middle three. It's like that should be enough to be able to control a game like that at home.
Do you think it's a case that Arteta is just managing it all in terms of exertion and energy, because Arsenal want to be firing on all cylinders? Because if you look at this, you think to yourself, because they weren't hugely convincing Arsenal. We compare them to say someone like Aston Villa, who what they've been doing, and I think are Arsenal that convincing in the Champions League? Obviously, they got quarter-final last year, but you look at what they have in their sights and where they want to be. Actually, you shouldn't be going hell for leather really at home.
Maybe
in a game like this.
I mean, especially with Liverpool coming to town on Sunday with like an increasing injury list, which is, I mean, I would expect Arsenal to play a very sort of attritional, grindy game, even at home against Liverpool with the players they've got missing. It's going to be a really tough one.
A grindy game.
I think it'll be a grindy game.
But I mean, Shakhtar are no mugs, Andy, side that you know quite well. How are they at the moment?
Well, they've had a not amazing start to the season, and they've got a massive game at the weekend.
And they weren't very good, were they, last night, really? And essentially, I think it wasn't one of those games where it's like, oh, actually, they've turned up and they've surprised us and this has been a bit tricky. I don't think they were great.
No, I think it's something that really underlines what I was talking about before about the difference between the strongest and the weakest teams in the Champions League. They're a big name, but they're not anywhere near what they were in 2009 or 2012 or anything like that for obvious reasons. So really, you've got a situation that they played a bit like when Wimbledon played at Newcastle in the Cup recently.
Here we go.
Thank you very much. No, but it's that sense of let's just stay in the game and give ourselves a puncher's chance in the last 15. And that's where they were. And with that save that Raya, and not that we need to underline what a good goalkeeper David Raya is, but that he made that save from Pedrinho right at the end, which was their only effort on target, and he had to make that in stoppage time. And that's exactly what you need to be for Arsenal's goalkeeper. That's something that Aaron Ramsdale, good goalkeeper as he is, could not be for Arsenal, really, isn't it? But it's just, this felt like one of those games that makes me a little bit sceptical about the format, because Arsenal semi-rotated the team and they were just they were coasting through it in what, second gear at best, really?
Yeah, which is why I think
they could have knocked it. They could have knocked it up at any point, really, couldn't they?
You both seem to have come to that conclusion, because I don't know. Obviously, you watch games differently with the team you support. I was kind of fearful. It's like, oh god, it felt more like we couldn't get out of second gear rather than that we chose to drive in it.
Yeah, I mean, the penalty would have obviously been quite nice.
I can't believe he didn't give it to Havertz. If Havertz had scored in that game, he would have set a new record for consecutive goals in home games.
Really?
Yeah. He's joint with Robin van Persie now, and it's like forever, because let's be honest, that's quite a hard thing to do. Like, what are you doing?
Maybe he didn't want to. Maybe he wanted to honour Robin van Persie and what he still means to the Arsenal fans.
A little bit of Chelsea still in him, couldn't help himself.
Oh dear. Arsenal's Ukrainian starlet, Alexander Zinchenko, recently revealed, Jim, that Mikel Arteta once got a freestyle footballer to disguise himself as a waiter and beat Zinchenko in a freestyle competition. He has funny motivation techniques, doesn't he?
Why? What is he? Is he trying to get together a group of people for a bank heist?
It does seem a bit like that.
Feel that
Arteta's
way.
11.
Yeah.
Totally different different meaning now.
No, you're focusing on the wrong 11. What is it? There was the guy. There was the pickpocket. There was the freestyler.
Yeah, there must be more.
Yeah,
it's unlikely.
Probably some long games that have yet to come to fruition.
Definitely that, but it's unlikely.
I know. I know. Yeah. They've definitely got some tech guy who's going to hack VAR down the line.
Oh,
that's what they're planning.
You should be working for Nottingham Forest the way you're speaking.
I've had the pleasure of watching all the Ocean's 11 films, the Ocean films, as it were, fairly recently. I don't know what I was playing at, but so I know how these.
It's not called Ocean's 11 2.
Now even more 11 than before. I just didn't know how to refer to them.
Yeah, I know.
The one with Clooney and all his mates.
Yeah, that's it. They're all in there. All right, everybody. Coming up after this, a pet parrot lands a Spanish referee in some bother. See you in a moment.
What a match day this was. It's been a feast of football with a smug of goals scored by the likes of Real Madrid, Inter Milan, Sporting, Lisbon and Manchester City.
Well, back to the Football Ramble, everybody. That was Jamie Carragher, of course. Yeah.
Seemingly on a whistle-stop tour of everywhere in North America.
That's what he actually sounds like. He's not a Scouser at all. Right, back to the Champions League. Real Madrid beat Borussia Dortmund 5-2.
Oh, you gone 2-0 up, have you?
Yeah.
Guess what's going to happen?
All 5 of their goals coming in the last half an hour of the game. 3 of them coming in the last 8 minutes of the game, if we're going to be precise. Vinicius Junior scored a hat-trick. What a man, what a player, what great goals. He was like George Weah on something that he shouldn't be on.
We're on a lot of too much Red Bull
on Carabao.
George Weah
on Carabao.
Sorry, we're a Carabao podcast.
Yeah.
You're right.
We're a Carabao country. I go as far as
I agree.
But Vish, he was. It's when that man is in full flow, it's something else.
Yeah, but also.
Bearing in mind, Kylian Mbappe was also on the field.
Yeah, like have some, regular.
Is that how you do it in
have some regular, like, human stamina.
Yeah.
Don't suddenly put on the afterburners in the 6th minute of added time.
See Emery Can tracking him, and he's like, "Oh, sod it."
It's so good.
This.
Emery Can veered away from that, from chasing him down, like you do when you run after a bus and it pulls out. You want to start out. I wasn't trying to get it anyway.
There's no sudden stop.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to track down.
I'm just waving someone off. Yeah.
I just found it really. I found it annoying. Is what I found.
Were you like Rio Ferdinand shouting at the telly, "Ballon d'Or" when he scored?
No, but someone was like, "Oh, and that's why he's going to win the Ballon d'Or."
The referee,
probably not this.
The referee definitely didn't say it, but the commentator did.
Yes,
Ian Dart.
Yeah. I suppose that's where we are now. It's fine. We're part of it as well. But, I mean, it was incredibly impressive. But I was also like, Dortmund did so well.
No.
In like, they basically played to their ceiling. And it was just simply not enough.
They certainly defended to their ceiling.
Was it Stuttgart played there? Was it match day 1?
Yeah.
And they went ahead or equalised?
They equalised.
But they missed a few chances.
They were the better team for most of it.
Clearly with Real Madrid, what you need to do is you're going to get chances early on because they're not really interested in just winning a game. It has to be spectacular. Mm-hmm. It has to be the show, right?
It has to be a sort of telenovela, doesn't it?
Indeed it does. and so you need to be, I mean, you've got to say you need to be like 5 or 6 up at half time because 2-0...
Or just don't
score.
No,
because then you veer into like the idea that they're about to do something historic, don't you?
So Andy's onto something. You don't score, so then Real Madrid go,
Because the thing is, when it's 2-0 to Dortmund at half time, you're like, they're never holding this in a million years.
I know what you mean.
Well, it's a dangerous scoreline, as we know. You don't
do
that to Real Madrid in the Bernabeu. Like, 2-0 here.
Yeah,
do you not know anything about that scoreline? How dare you?
Yeah.
But I think the interesting thing about this game is when it got back to 2-2, Dortmund were like, right, we can still win this.
Well, yeah.
And that's maybe their biggest mistake.
Is that kind of the format where, plays into the fact that because they're not going to play them again, if they were, they might have thought, well, we'll try and hold this.
Something free-hitty, you mean?
Yeah.
I just think Dortmund have defended horribly all season, and the last bit of this game was sort of reflective of that.
Well, they managed
to it's like a yellow Jenga wall now. The normal one.
They managed to keep their former man, Jude Bellingham, out of the scoring, and he went very close, of course. He's been getting criticism in the Spanish media, yet to score this season. Ancelotti was fielding a few questions about him in the press conference before the game, and he said the surprise is not Bellingham this season. The surprise was last season when he was scoring all those goals. It was a wonderful way to spin it.
We said it all along, didn't we?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, that's just Ancelotti just, again, handling himself immaculately in front of the press. Like the way he said it was like, look, he's doing what we want him to do. He is still playing, and it was and right, we're seeing a different Bellingham as we knew we would, especially with Mbappe going there.
Exactly. The sort of people who are criticising Bellingham for not scoring at the moment know nothing about anything.
Yeah, I mean, he might have scored that head around it, to be fair to these people, but that's not the point.
Both hit the bar.
Oh, it was a stunning piece of play.
That was incredible, wasn't it?
From young Madrid men to old ones, Luka Modric made history last weekend as he became the oldest footballer to play for Real Madrid at 39 years and 40 days, beating Ferenc Puskás's record. That's one of those records where you think, well, that'll never be beaten.
I don't know. As you know, fitness improves and.
But for Real Madrid, the demands and so, I mean, Modric, of course, is a generational talent.
Ronaldo will fancy that. He'll come back for like a single game.
And they'd welcome him back with open arms.
Yes.
But isn't it like Modric's thing that he's a closer now? So even in games he starts, so like he doesn't necessarily stay on for the whole game.
Yeah, true.
And I think they're managing him in a way that is befitting of someone of his talents, because it is so rare, especially with Toni Kroos moving on.
Yeah, well, Ancelotti said more than one time last season, he said, Luka's very annoyed with me at the moment, and I can understand why. Because he deserves to be starting. If you think in this game that he broke the record against Celta at the weekend, set up the winner for Vinicius. I mean, it's not like he comes on and does a job. He's genuinely impactful. He's a better player now at nearly 40 than the player who won the Ballon d'Or, which is ridiculous.
Incredible. Do you think Ancelotti could have been a bit more disrespectful and gone, wow, we all get a bit crotchety in our old age? Well, he's also the most successful player in the history of Real Madrid, which is something, having won 27 titles there. I mean, he signed when he was 27. So again, it's not like Bellingham. You imagine Bellingham will be there for a number of years and win a fair bit. But yeah, absolutely incredible. Phenomenal.
Can I also make the point that for Lucas Vazquez's goal, the goal that puts him ahead, Dortmund feel like they've done everything right because they just mark all the players in the box who are on, let's say, 50 million euros a year, and they naturally just if the right back's going to square it, we've got everything covered, and then he blasts it
on his near post,
and he blasts it into far top corner. And it's like, what can we do then? What is the point of this?
Sort of Danny Pavon, but all those years later, because the house always wins.
Absolutely. Right, let's go a little bit further afield in Spain. Now we're going to go to Spanish TV show El Chiringuito, a favourite of yours, Jim.
Absolutely.
A quite ridiculous television show. We don't have anything near it, do we, Andy, in this country?
Big Breakfast would probably be like the closest thing we've ever had to
but that. Like a really angry Big Breakfast.
Yeah, the Big Breakfast with like Crime Watch lighting.
If GB,
but does football.
If GB News did the Big Breakfast
in a football context.
Yeah.
Is it? It's on at night as well, isn't it?
Chiringuito, do they have as troubling views as GB News? Or is it?
No.
Oh, okay. It's more ridiculous.
There's a lot of conspiracy on there.
Okay. Yeah, it's an absolute madhouse. But there was something stunning happened, even for them. This was quite brilliant. They had former La Liga referee Pajares Paz being interviewed. Now, Pajares Paz, I thought that's because Paz means peace in Spanish, and I thought, Pajares, what does that mean? If you go to Google Translate, Pajares means, according to Google Translate, whatever you think, haystacks.
So is that saying he's got like a ref with a wrestler name?
They were talking to Haystacks Peace, Andy, is what I'm saying. But anyway, we'll go with his Spanish name, Pajares Paz, because that is his name. And he was being interviewed from his home, sat there, a high-profile referee. And imagine in this country, we see this now, don't we, that Sky Sports make, or TNT Sports, when they have a recognisable referee in the studio, or at the World Cup. In the background, his parrot started to like whistle a little tune, as parrots do, and then it became apparent that he was whistling the Real Madrid anthem.
But the great thing about it is his face, isn't it? Oh, his face betrays him more than his parrot does.
He starts going, shut up, but he doesn't understand the technology because he doesn't realise that we can hear him and see him go, shh. Oh, man.
He's so good.
Imagine, like, they went, right, well, we got Howard Webb. He happens to be in his house at the moment, his living room, and he's got a minor bird going, come on, you heads. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the same, essentially, isn't it?
It's a difficult one for me, because like most people, I love parrots, but at the same time, we know that no one likes a grass. So,
Good point.
where do you stand?
You are ultimately from East London, of course, Jim. So yeah, you would very much take that. Oh, but like again, you often see shocked faces and people trying to leave the studio in horror during that show, whereas it was genuine without a doubt. Minds were blown.
Yeah. But fortunately, no one in the last 70 years has ever thought that Real Madrid have had preferential treatment from referees in La Liga.
Well, Andy, it could start a new conspiracy. Yeah, definitely a new one.
Apparently, old Haystack's piece. Paris Paz claimed that another ex-La Liga referee, a guy called Urizar Apitate, has a parrot that says cabron at the word Barcelona, which of course means bastards.
Yeah. So
why did all these referees have parrots?
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
What is going on?
In a very weird story, that's easily the weirdest bit.
Yeah.
that's his defence.
Why are you training people to dob you in?
I have to do this to balance it out.
You should talk to his parrot. See some of the stuff that he comes out with.
Imagine that, dobbing in someone else's parrot. Is that all you've got? But the thing is, though, it's not it's like how many times has that parrot had to hear that tune to perfect it, to know it? Deary me.
I did the idea that the equivalent over here would be like an XL bully, so you'll never walk alone.
Yes, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Oh, stunning stuff. Right, everybody. Of course, there's Champions League action tonight. Pete and Luke will be bringing you a brand new Ramble Reacts this evening after Liverpool head to RB Leipzig and Manchester City host Sparta Prague. Barcelona, those bastards, according to that parrot, also host Harry Kane's Bayern Munich. So it's a big one there. That will be in your podcast apps a couple of hours after full time. So make sure you subscribe to never miss an episode. Right, on to more ridiculous stuff from the world of football we go. Where else? To the Mongolian Premier League. Tuz Azergunud, otherwise known as Central Stallions in English, have had a bad start to the season, and I know there's a lot of concern for old Stallions in this country. Well, last time they finished 5th in the league in the 10-team Mongolian Premier League. They had more wins than losses and a 25-plus goal difference, so I think it's fairly respectable finish, mid-table. This season they've played 9 matches. They've only scored 2 goals. They've let in 111.
You can't do that.
It's not good. It's not good. Something has to give. Last week they lost.
That's zonal marking, is it?
It is. Last week, just from corners. Last week they lost at home to Brera Ilch 21. So another huge scoreline. Brera Ilch went 1-0 up and then got a man sent off in the 20th minute. Stallions scored the penalty, and you're thinking to yourself, "Okay, lads, you're back at 1-1."
Yeah,
but
you can turn this season around.
Exactly. This is where you kickstart it. Despite their man advantage, they conceded 5 goals before half time and 14 in the second half. Arsenal could learn from that, Jim.
Yeah. Police Machine could learn from that as well. It's way more subtle.
Yeah. Although the losing 21 to 10 men.
But do you think that feeds into the other football cliche that we love on this show, that it is sometimes harder to play against 10 men?
Yeah, that's a good point. And probably when they were in the dressing room at half time, we thought, right, we'll start again 0-0.
Yeah.
Well, we scored. What do you mean start again? We've got to score again.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they concede 14.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, everybody, but the Mongolia Premier League, you can't keep your eyes off it. Right, gentlemen, back to Europe. Now, do you remember the former Roma defender Kostas Manolas?
Yeah, of course. The glorious goal against Barcelona in the Romontada. And, of course, he nearly went back to Roma in the summer at a discount.
Yes, but
to help out his old club.
But he didn't know.
No, he had a high calling.
He went to Panaxiochos in the Greek 4th tier. He left Salernitana in the summer. He's only 33 years old, so it is quite a step down, considering, as Andy said, he was maybe going to go back to Roma.
But it's his hometown club.
Well, it's his hometown club, Andy, and I think he's had enough of defending, quite frankly, because he was played as a striker on his debut at the weekend. He scored 5 goals at a 12-1 win, taken off 10 minutes before half-time.
Before half-time?
Come on. I mean, it's Mongolian Prem stuff, this. But I love the fact that he's just thinking, hometown club, here we go.
This would be nice.
Don't we all fantasize occasionally of what it would be like to get a favourite pro to play for your five-a-side team?
Oh my goodness, it's brilliant though. It's like he's properly filling his boots, isn't it? It's like someone's let the fox in the hen house. It's like, yeah, come on.
It also demonstrates how far above regular players the proper pros are, that a defender can just smash in 5 goals like that in 25 minutes.
It's absolutely brilliant.
You know, sometimes it happens in 11-a-side, and obviously when you play like midweek fives or whatever, you'll come up against someone who is unbelievable, and you'll be like, oh, do you play a high standard? Like, yeah. What position do you play? Oh, I play in goal.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Oh, it's Edison. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Mind you, talking of former Roma players, did you see Francesco Totti recently? Now, I know Totti's a bit of a joker, but he was talking about at the age of 48. He was like, yeah, I have thought about maybe. He said, I reckon give me a few months, I could be back at the races in Serie A. Because he was talking about no number 10s in Serie A. He was like, I could still do the job.
He said Serie A clubs have continued calling him. He is 48 now.
Because he is quite famous for being a bit of a joker.
Yeah, he is famous for being a bit of a joker.
I think there was like 30% serious.
Well, they asked him, and obviously the interviewer asked him Lazio, and he's like, right, yeah, a joke's a joke, but no.
Yeah. Excellent stuff. All right, everybody. Coming up after this, Phil Neville wins his first trophy at Portland Timbers. Yes, everybody, we go to America now, the United States of America, to be precise, in case you're confused. The regular MLS season finished at the weekend. Inter Miami finished top of the Eastern Conference with 74 points, a new record.
I mean, if that's not worth a visit from Gianni Infantino, I really don't know what is. A surprise visit from Gianni Infantino.
Yeah, I mean, Infantino, he was on stage there lapping up the applause. It was like something out of X Factor, Andy, quite frankly.
I mean, it goes back to what Jim was saying before about fairly worthless trophies. They won, Inter Miami won the MLS Supporters Shield, which says you're the best team in the regular season. So it's because they won the Eastern Conference. And yeah, he stood there and gave this ridiculous speech in a career of ridiculous speeches in front of the podium where all the players are, which of course is their moment. And he said, well, given that they've consistently proved they're the best team in this great country, that's right, the season's not over yet. In fact, the playoffs haven't even bloody started yet. He went, they are invited to the Club World Cup, and they will be the host nation's representative of the Club World Cup.
He loves it, doesn't he? He absolutely loves it.
And like Messi was like, I'm sure he must have been sitting there going, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing.
Oh yeah. Did he feel a little bit Miamian?
Yes.
I love that. Well, as you were saying that, Vish was genuinely just staring into the abyss, shaking his head.
I mean, they're a joke of a club, aren't they? Like, totally, they couldn't be further away.
Why are we not focusing on Infantino?
I was about to say,
but they would have invited. Like, this kind of plays into this whole thing of like, they're not Miami, they're not representative of Miami. They're very much like someone's plaything.
Yeah,
and
the way they treated Fizzer, getting rid of him.
Yeah. Broken clocks and all that. But the idea that they welcomed Infantino, I think, totally fits their vibe as a club.
Oh, but do you not think, though, that if Infantino turns up to say something, the head of FIFA, that, like, there's tons of, the majority of football clubs around the world would be like, okay, yeah,
yeah, but this also the fact that they clearly courted this, like, World Club Championship place as well. It's just a very meh organisation.
Well, hang on.
Lovely kits though.
So what are you saying about David Beckham? Is that not a man with integrity?
Look at the leaked emails, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Look, I love the documentary. When he cooked that little mushroom, I forgave everything.
Wait, what about that free kick against Greece, mate?
And that as well.
All right, okay.
He's not part of it. He's trying to do his best.
Well, FIFA did tweet their congratulations as well, as it meant
themselves.
yes,
for
indeed.
The Club World Club.
The eyes of the world will be on Hard Rock Stadium in Miami on Sunday, 15th of June, just in case anybody's forgotten when it was starting. 2025, when Lionel Messi and co take their club story to the world. The way it's quite Disney-like, isn't it?
You know when you sort of know players aren't doing their own tweets because they're doing something else at the same time. Well, presumably, as Infantino was on the pitch, like Salt Bay's been tweeting that.
Oh, don't talk about Salt
There's a time and a place for a plug, and it's surely not that. It's undignified.
You must fancy a bit of sampling some of Salt Bay's produce, Fish. That's right up your alley, isn't it?
Well, why? It's extortionate, isn't it?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, but you're a quite blingy, foodie guy, right?
Look at him. He's thinking about it.
I'm an eater. I had tried the McRib yesterday. It's not as good as it used to be.
The McRib. Straight back down to earth. All right, fair enough. What I'm saying is, on your Insta stories, if it pops up with you and the salty one.
Not the salty one.
Yeah, you give him too much kind of reverence
the salty
there.
One.
Salty one.
Anyway, how about this? DC United's Christian Benteke won the Golden Boot.
There you go.
MLS.
It's all going off in MLS.
It really is. And that's where we go, Jim, to the first trophy given out of the season. The real winners, of course, Phil Neville's Portland Timbers, because they won the Cascadia Cup. My goodness. I've been a bit nervous for Portland over the Cascadia Cup, but they've got it, and I'm delighted. This trophy was set up.
Did you know what it was before today's show?
Show some fucking respect.
This trophy was set up in 2004, Vish, okay? This trophy is older than the Football Ramble, okay? It was set up by supporters of Seattle Sounders, Vancouver Whitecaps and Portland Timbers. So this is something for the supporters. We're doing this for the supporters, okay?
Three sets of supporters.
This is like Newcastle, Sunderland and Middlesbrough setting up a little league for who's done best.
But without that level of authenticity.
Hang on a minute. You say 3 sets of supporters. How many sets of supporters are involved in the Ashes? Yet you cover that. 2.
Yeah, but it's a competitive series,
and 3,
and they play against each other.
That's these.
Yeah, no, but they
3
play
is
against
always
other
going to be greater
people.
than
real
2.
competition.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
2's company, 3's a crowd, man.
I think the Ashes are older than the nation of the US as
It's
well.
awarded at the end of each season to the team with the best head-to-head record of the 3 sides in the league. The aim is to crown the best team in the Pacific Northwest.
A region you've often cared about.
I do. Similar weather to here, I'm told. And this season, of course, Timbers finished behind both Whitecaps and Sounders, but it was all a ruse, of course, in that Western Conference, because they won the big one, the Cascadia Cup, on goals scored, not on goal difference. They've near identical records, all 3 sides. 2 wins, 2 draws and 2 losses, finishing with 8 points. But Fizz's flock won it on goals scored, and that shows you that Fizz's attacking style of football is paying dividends, Andy. There's your trophy.
Jim's started reaching in his bag and started pulling out several Emirates cups.
There he goes.
Well, it just shows
like you can celebrate anything.
Yes.
Fizz is a man for the details and the fine margins,
Indeed,
isn't he?
he is.
Have you
Indeed
seen his I hesitate to use the word motivational, but Fizz's motivational speech before this.
He was fired up and he talked about let's go home with the fucking Cascadia Cup.
I don't like it when he swears.
No, it feels like that was the best take they could get after about 10 attempts.
I love it how he said it in the team talk. He was like, let's go home with the cup.
Yeah.
And they needed to go to Seattle Sounders, a tough place, as we can all agree. And they needed to get something. But they didn't need to get too much because they knew a draw would be enough. And then they got it. It's brilliant management from it's Hoddle away to Italy-esque, this sort of stuff. So now the rain
was fizzing in Seattle that
damn
day.
Right it was. So obviously Fizz's lot now face Vancouver Whitecaps in the wildcard match for the Major League Soccer playoffs tonight. And if they win,
to clarify, is a real competition.
That's the real thing.
That's the real Fizz.
It's yeah, okay, fine. And if they win, they'll advance to the first round of the playoffs to face Olivier Giroud and Hugo Lloris's LAFC.
I like that they're getting that prefix there,
yes.
like Bram Stoker's Dracula, or Mary Shelley's Wayne Rooney.
Unbelievable.
Do you think Fizz has got more motivational speeches in him?
I think he's got tons. A lot of playbooks. And
we'll do what on the beaches?
Churchillian, it was not.
Cheers for watching another fantastic clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Make sure you click like on this video and subscribe to the channel, which means you will not miss a single upload.